Here we are, welcome to the Summer Chelsea Flower Show. Once again, we're looking through the exhibits and we come to the pavilion designed by Baggy Hi-Fi, always at the forefront of horticulture. And this piece is called Let the Weeds Grow. I think a profound statement about the human condition and one of the most powerful, I think, displays this summer.
Greetings cats and kittens, welcome once again to Baggy Hi-Fi, this YouTube channel devoted to record collecting and the vinyl community here in the UK. Well, it's been a while. The last video I made was with Ed from the Sound Projector radio show and magazine when we did a shopping trip to Hexham in Northumberland and discussed those records that we bought. Since then, August has unfurled. We're at the end of August. I'm filming this on the last bank holiday Monday of the year. It has been a particularly hot summer. In fact, there's been lots of rain. And I was originally going to make this video a couple of weeks ago, but things have been busy and I was going to make the pun Midsummer Murmurs. But this one has now changed to Late Summer Murmurs, which is not quite as good a pun. For those of you in the USA, I'm referring to a very popular detective program called Midsummer Murders, which is always set in a quaint English village, and the murder would be taking place, which is investigated. And the thing that people always say about that program is not a good place to live. So anyway, I'm going to look back over this last month, the records I've bought. In fact, I've been probably been buying as many books as I've been buying records. And while I'm mentioning books, and I know probably quite a lot of record collectors also collect paperbacks or books, just to let you know that Pete from Sounds from the West Coast Vinyl Community Channel also has a new channel devoted to paperback collecting, and that is called West Coast Book Addict. So if you're interested, I suggest you go over and see what Pete is saying about his obsession with book collecting. Just as much of an obsession as record collecting, I would say. So I think I'm going to talk about one of the records that I did buy in that last Hexham jaunt with Ed, and that is Tarot Suite by Mike Batt and Friends from 1979. It's a concept album about the tarot cards, made by Mike Batt, famed for the Wombles. Now, Mike Batt must have been very well respected by record labels, I guess, and the music industry in general, because he has a big budget on this concept album. Is it the London Symphony Orchestra? Yeah. And he also managed to get a lot of well-known rock guests of the time, of the 70s. Rory Gallagher on guitar, Chris Spedding on guitar, Tony McPhee, sadly recently died, of the Groundhogs, all playing lead guitar. BJ Cole on pedal steel guitar. Mel Collins, famous for his contributions to the King Crimson albums, is on here as well. And on vocals, Colin Blunstone and Roger Chapman. Now I'm going to do a needle drop of the track that Roger Chapman contributes to. I was a bit disappointed with this. Maybe I didn't really have massive high hopes, much as I like the Wombles, much as I like some other Mike Batt arrangements I've heard. It's a little bit, perhaps a bit too Andrew Lloyd Webber for me. Sort of seems more like a musical than just I was hoping it would be more proggy. Anyway, but interesting album. Tarot Suite by Mike Batt and Famous Friends. This next album is by someone who was very famous, Monsieur David Bowie. This is an album I was very attracted to. Now, it's David Bowie, Transition on Air, 1967 to 1971, limited edition. I think what I liked initially, apart from the content, is that how it makes a pastiche of the World of series albums, down to the typography and the listing of the tracks down that side, and also the those Decca albums of the early 70s used to have this thing which would indicate blue or red, mono or stereo. I would say this period of Bowie is definitely an interesting one. I really love Bowie's 67, Anthony Newley period. I think they're great songs, really nicely arranged, and it's nice to hear alternate versions of these recorded for radio shows. I'm not sure whether this material is also on the Bowie at the Beeb compilation. I only have that on CD, so it's nice to have these radio tracks on vinyl. Really nice version of Waiting for the Man. Mick Ronson's on there, of course, by then. But a really nice version of Cooks as well, much more stripped down without the Rick Wakeman piano and the strings. Much more of an acoustic version of Cooks, of course, which was on the Hunky Dory album. So I think this actually, it does say the tracks are licensed, they have permission to use these tracks. So maybe not so much of an illegitimate bootleg as it first appears. I think it's on coloured vinyl. The label says Bowie. Is it on coloured vinyl? Yeah, a kind of a dingy blue, duck egg blue maybe. So that's a Bowie on air transition. Staying with the 70s, I'm building up my Hawkwind vinyl collection, and with this, their sixth studio album, Astounding Sounds, Amazing Music. Interesting cover design. I think this side is actually by Barney Bubbles, who did the In Search of Space and Space Ritual covers. But he's not, it's signed Grosvenor, I think it's so that, but it is Barney Bubbles. This is from 1976. I don't like this quite as much as the album which followed, Quark, Strangeness and Charm, which is one of my favourite Hawkwind sort of mid-70s albums. A few instrumental tracks on here. I like the inner sleeve. It's a spoof of Small Ads, so you get references to the band members of the time. For example, Simon King, The Pleasure Primer for Rollicking Bedside Fun. Robert Calvert, Perfect Voice Institute. Nick Turner, Lingerie. So, yes, good album. I believe each track was intended to be a kind of and you know how much Hawkwind were into science fiction. Each of the 6 tracks was meant to be a sort of miniature science fiction story, at least. The titles referring to that imaginary story. But nice to have this album in my collection. Still need a few more from the 70s though. And I believe that Space Ritual, there's going to be a multi-CD release box set thing of all those recordings out quite soon. Now, I heard that there was a reissue of the Mighty Baby first album, eponymous album, again from the British Underground. This cover by who's it called? Martin Sharp, who did the Cream Wheels of Fire cover. I think this is actually based on an original drawing by Bern Hogarth of Tarzan of the Apes, but of course this is very much psychedelicized. Very nice reissue of this underground classic. So Mighty Baby were originally the Action, and as the underground developed, they moved away from their, first of all, sort of mod garage sound, and they had been through a sort of baroque pop sound, all excellent. I really recommend all of the recordings by the Action. But as the underground unfurled in the late 60s, they became much more of a psychedelic band. There's some blues influences in here, just a lovely exotic subject matter, quite mystical, really first rate late 60s underground album. Highly recommended. Nice to have a really good sounding recent reissue of this 69 classic. Okay, I'm going to do some needle drops now and I'll be back with you for some French and Belgian records. I was quite pleased to find this Gong album. It's their first album, but not as it was first released on the BYG Actuel label in France. Because David Allen had left Soft Machine by this point in the late 60s and was in France. Got together a band, called them Gong. The album's called Magic Brother, Mystic Sister. Gilly Smith is on here, Space Whispering Away. This is before Steve Hillage joined the band and they signed to Virgin and became much more high profile. But it's nevertheless really nice, weird, underground, psychedelic music. This is the reissue which came out on the Charlie label in 1977. I'll show you the label. On one side is called the early morning side and the other side is called the late night side. So yes, would be nice to have an original. And I think they are expensive, as you'd imagine, but this wasn't that cheap either, actually. It plays quite well, slightly crackly in parts, but yeah. Gong, David Allen and Gilly Smith, Magic Brother, Mystic Sister. Staying over in France, I was really pleased to find this in the excellent RPM Records in Newcastle upon Tyne, an original copy of Magma's 1001 Centigrade. Nice French copy on the Philips label. The fellow in the shop, we were talking about Magma. French band, of course, invented their own language, their own mythos of Kabaya, and even at this their second album, the Kabayan language is sung throughout. It's not quite as militaristic and operatic as what would come next in 1973 in the Mechanic Destructu Commando album, which brought them to lots of people's attentions, including snooker player Steve Davis, who is one of their most rabid fans. But yeah, I really enjoy this. Some of it is of that kind of very stern, very demanding music, very much chamber music, very composed, tricky, lots of odd rhythms and weird time signatures and changes of direction on a pinhead. But it's some of the stuff on here is quite jazzy, sort of in the soft machine vein, but very, very nice to spot this one on the Philips label. Pleased to add this to my Magma vinyl collection. Really want to get a hold of their first album, the double album. I think it's called Kabaya, with the claws on that cover. That's one which has eluded me so far. Moving over to Belgium. Now, I would say that Magma are unique, but they did influence a whole lot of bands in Europe in the 70s and to this day, who most people seem to group them together under the label Zool music, or some people would say it's Zoil. Not quite sure on that. Don't think it matters too much, but yeah, very uncompromising music. Bands which also became part of the rock in opposition movement, played with English bands like Henry Cow, and this band I'm going to show now did do that. They are Universe Zero from Belgium. I think they did contain some members, ex-Magma members. This is dark, very dark and powerful music. This is their second album, Heresy, which has just been reissued again. Done a really nice job on it. I've still got the shrink wrap on there. I'll just show you the inner sleeve, this nice brown inner sleeve, and this lovely burnt orange vinyl. Yeah, very, 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 very dark. The instruments include harmonium, which is a gloomy instrument to begin with, isn't it? Violin, viola, oboes and bassoons. This is what you can expect from the excellent Universe Zero with their album classic Heresy. Now look at these guys. Looks as if they're in some kind of swamp or a back garden which has had some heavy rain. They always wore black. They always wore shades, and there they are. There's one of their members sitting in a wheelchair. Excellent. Universe Zero.
Bye.
Staying with gloomy music for a short while before we cheer things up. This is a recent release which I got from the excellent shop. I haven't been to the shop, it's in London. But also the excellent webbed site, as they call themselves, Crypt of the Wizard, who deal in very dark releases, a lot of dungeon synth and such like, and extreme black metal music. So this is one I really had been streaming by a band called Oubliette. I think they are French-Canadian. Look at that sleeve. And there is the Mr. Oubliette himself. It's on rather bright blue label. It's on the Out of Season label, who mainly release dungeon synth. Now I say dungeon synth, but a lot of this instrumental dungeon synth music does bear quite a resemblance to ambient synthesizer music, and also I would say sort of 70s Berlin school of instrumental synth, sort of Klaus Schulze, Tangerine Dream. Subject matter tends to be of the fantasy, leaning towards fantasy and role-playing games. But I really do recommend this one. It's the music sounds like the cover art, very misty and mystical and dark. So yeah, that's Oubliette. All the tracks are in French, but if you like, Tangerine Dream and 70s Klaus Schulze type music, don't be put off by the dungeon synth tag. That is, I guess, what people are calling this kind of music at the moment. But yeah, if you like electronic music, you probably like this. Especially if you like it to be of a more gloomy bent. Now I'm going to cheer things up a bit now with a CD release on the wonderful Grapefruit label. Now a few years back, Grapefruit released these triple CD box sets devoted to each year of psychedelic British music, 67. I think it started with 67, actually went back to 66 and 65. And now they're coming round again and covering other bits of music from those classic psychedelic years. So this is Too Much Sun Will Burn, the British Psychedelic Sounds of 1967, Volume 2. Now, if you like this kind of music, British psych and British pop psych, I do recommend you get this, although you may think that you have a lot of the tracks from that period already. Now, a lot of this stuff hasn't previously been released before, so it's a must. And there are even some really obscure tracks by well-known artists on here, including Genesis and Elton John. There's a track by Elton John, which is quite a psyche one, called Nina. So yeah, once again, great production values, nice booklet as ever. Lots of information. Excellent stuff. I'm going to end this video with two Novelty records which I bought when I was in Ashington, Northumberland the other week. They had a section devoted to sort of spoken word and odd stuff. I'm from Liverpool, and this one caught my eye. It's a 60s album on how to talk Scouse proper, which is the dialect for you Americans that you might not know, the Scouse dialect. And this is called A Load of Maloney, How to Talk Scouse Proper. It's made by someone called Peter Maloney. I mean, humour has changed a lot over the years since 1967. This is very sort of gentle, quite erudite humour, talking about Scouse semantics, I guess. It has a recommendation from Eamon Andrews, and also a recommendation from Ken Dodd, who was a Scouser comedian. don't know when I'll play this one very much, and it's on the it's a nice label, the Big Ben label. I've never seen that one before. Now this next one again may not make much sense to American viewers. Basil Brush was on TV for decades, and he was a puppet, very charming puppet. He had many straight men with him. Mr. Jeffrey. On this one, it's Mr. George, who is asks Basil questions. Now this is on the it's on EMI, and there's a George Martin collection because the material is all written by George Martin, and he does the liner notes as well. It's a really very, very charming record. Probably we'll do a needle drop from it. I can remember Alan from Static Traveller showing this record and enthusing about it. So I do agree with Alan that it's a very nice record. Very, very, very English. The humour is lovely. And isn't that car lovely as well? Basil in his car. Now I mentioned Alan from Static Traveller because we haven't seen him make any videos for a long, long time. And I know he was kind of reading between the lines. He seemed to sound quite disillusioned with the vinyl community, saying that it was just seemed to be focusing on rather silly kind of just competition, contest videos and nothing much original. So I think that's probably the case. But Alan, we do miss you and your erudite reflections on music. Hope you come back sometime. Anyway, that's the end of this video. We're heading towards September, so I'll see you again soonish, I hope. Thanks for watching as ever, and bye for now.
This is roughly how it comes about. There are 5 vowels in Scouse. E-R-E-N-E. The only way to learn them is to practice over and over the typical Liverpool proverbs. Sera, Teresa, see you Tuesday. I had a scuffle up a jigger with the rotter. Some say you say what? Go and have a look in a kook book. When you have mastered these, then you will astonish your friends. And lose them. After that, those with a serious philological bent will be able to go on to the syntactical niceties of the dialect. For example, the universal exhortative, comed.
Well, I don't mind people visiting or dropping in for tea, but I can't meet Mrs. Brown when I'm in my nightgown.
Remember you're a gentleman and always be polite. Say, welcome, Mrs. Brown, come in.
What? At 9:30 at night?
So what's wrong with that?
Well, I'm shy, Mr. George, I'm shy. I really can't understand why.
You should welcome that guest as they taught you in school.
When I'm dressed in my nightie, I feel such a fool.
So what did you do in the end? Please give me an honest reply.
Well, I took off my nightie and opened the door, 'cause I'm shy, Mr. George.
Thank